What if I told you that the secret to faster muscle recovery, fewer cramps, and all-day energy isn't locked inside a brightly colored bottle on a store shelf, but sitting in your refrigerator, your pantry, and your local grocery store right now? Most people don't know this, but some of the most powerful electrolyte drinks on Earth have been sitting in kitchens, farmhouses, and traditional medicine cabinets for thousands of years. Drinks your body actually recognizes. Drinks backed by real science, real clinical research, and generations of traditional use. And today, I'm going to show you 20 of them that will completely change the way you think about hydration and recovery. Stick around, because number 9 on this list is a salty, sour liquid most people pour down the drain without a second thought, and athletic trainers now use it to stop muscle cramps in under a minute. And number 13 is a deep purple juice that doesn't just replace what you've lost. It actually helps your blood carry oxygen more efficiently while you recover. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we post new videos every week connecting cutting-edge nutrition science with the foods and drinks your body was built to thrive on. And before we get started, I want you to keep one thing in mind as we go through this list. Every single drink here uses whole, real ingredients. Nothing artificial, nothing you can't pronounce, and nothing that requires a chemistry degree to understand what it's actually doing inside your body. Let's get into it. Here are 20 electrolyte-rich drinks that will recover you instantly, ranked from simple to absolutely essential. 1. Lemon honey salt water, the oldest recovery drink there is. Before there were sports science labs, before there were powdered mixes in little foil packets, there was this: water, fresh lemon juice, a spoonful of raw honey, and a pinch of salt. This combination shows up across cultures that had no contact with one another, which tells you something. Traditional healers in India, Mediterranean households, and early American folk medicine all leaned on some version of salted, sweetened citrus water to bring someone back from heat exhaustion or a hard day of physical labor. The reason it works is beautifully simple biochemistry. Sodium from the salt helps your intestines actually absorb the water you're drinking instead of letting it pass straight through you. This is the same principle behind oral rehydration therapy, the treatment the World Health Organization credits with saving millions of lives from dehydration. The honey supplies a small dose of glucose, and glucose is what activates the sodium-glucose transport channel in your gut lining, pulling both sugar and sodium and the water that follows them into your bloodstream far faster than water alone. The lemon juice adds a touch of potassium and vitamin C on top of that. To make it, stir the juice of half a lemon, a teaspoon of raw honey, and a small pinch of sea salt into a glass of water. It costs pennies, and it's still one of the most functionally effective rehydration drinks that exists. What's worth noticing is that this exact ratio, a little sodium, a little glucose, a lot of water, is the same underlying formula that clinical oral rehydration solutions are built around, just without the lab coats or the price tag. 2. Coconut water, nature's original sports drink. If there's one electrolyte drink that's crossed over into mainstream popularity, it's this one. Coconut water has been a staple in tropical regions across Southeast Asia, the Pacific Islands, and Central America for centuries, used to cool the body and restore strength after physical work in punishing heat. What makes it remarkable isn't just tradition, it's the mineral profile. Coconut water is unusually rich in potassium, containing significantly more per serving than most commercial sports drinks, along with meaningful amounts of sodium, magnesium, and calcium. Potassium is the primary mineral your body loses through sweat alongside sodium, and it's critical for proper muscle contraction and nerve signaling. When potassium runs low, you feel it as fatigue, muscle weakness, or cramping. Research comparing coconut water to conventional sports drinks has found it performs comparably for post-exercise rehydration, with the added benefit of a much lower sugar load and none of the artificial coloring. It's also naturally isotonic, meaning its mineral concentration is close to that of human blood plasma, which supports efficient absorption. Drink it straight from a young coconut if you can get one, or reach for a bottled version with no added sugar. It's genuinely one of the closest things nature offers to a ready-made recovery formula. Just be aware that not all bottled coconut waters are created equal. Some are made from concentrate and lose a portion of their mineral content in processing. So, checking the label for a single ingredient, coconut water, is worth the extra few seconds in the store aisle. 3. Watermelon juice. 90% water, 100% effective. Watermelon has been used for hydration in hot climates for thousands of years, and there's a reason ancient travelers in North Africa and the Middle East carried watermelons across the desert instead of relying on water sources alone. The fruit is roughly 92% water by weight, but it's the other 8% that makes it a genuine electrolyte drink rather than just wet sugar. Watermelon contains meaningful amounts of potassium and magnesium, two of the primary minerals depleted through sweat. It also contains citrulline, an amino acid that supports blood vessel dilation, which can improve blood flow to tired muscles during recovery. The natural sugars in watermelon, mostly fructose and glucose, work the same way the honey in our first entry does, activating that sodium-glucose transport system to pull fluid into your bloodstream more efficiently than water alone. Studies on watermelon juice consumption after exercise have shown reductions in muscle soreness and heart rate recovery time compared to plain water. To turn it into a proper electrolyte drink, blend fresh watermelon chunks, strain if you want it smooth, and add a small pinch of sea salt. That pinch of salt is what transforms a merely hydrating juice into one that actually replaces what you've lost. And because watermelon is mostly water to begin with, this drink is one of the easiest ways to consume a large fluid volume without feeling weighed down, which makes it especially useful in the middle of a hot afternoon when a heavier drink feels like the last thing you want. 4. Cucumber lime mint water, the refreshing minimalist. This is the drink you reach for on a hot afternoon when a heavy juice feels like too much. Cucumber has been used across Mediterranean and Middle Eastern food traditions for its cooling, hydrating properties for generations, often paired with mint for both flavor and its mild digestive benefits. On its own, cucumber water is mostly about hydration and small trace amounts of potassium and magnesium from the cucumber itself. But the real value of this drink comes from what you build into it. Lime contributes potassium and a small amount of vitamin C, while a pinch of sea salt turns this from a pleasant flavored water into a functional electrolyte beverage. The mechanism is the same one we've already covered. Sodium drives water absorption in the small intestine, and without it, plain flavored water simply doesn't rehydrate you as efficiently as your body needs, especially after a day of heavy sweating. This drink also has a practical advantage that gets overlooked: palatability. When you're dehydrated and don't feel like drinking anything, a light, refreshing flavor makes you more likely to actually consume the fluid volume you need. To make it, thinly slice half a cucumber, add the juice of 1 lime, a handful of fresh mint leaves, a pinch of sea salt, and let it steep in cold water for at least 30 minutes before drinking. Keep a pitcher of it in the fridge during hot weather, so it's always within reach, since a drink you actually enjoy is one you'll finish, and a drink you finish is one that can actually do its job. 5. Orange juice with sea salt, the citrus upgrade nobody thinks to make. Orange juice on its own has always been associated with recovery, largely because of its vitamin C and natural sugar content. But orange juice alone is missing a critical piece of the electrolyte puzzle: sodium. Orange juice already provides a solid dose of potassium, roughly 450 milligrams per cup, which supports muscle function and helps counteract the potassium lost through sweat. It also delivers natural glucose and fructose, which, as we've established, help drive fluid absorption when paired with sodium. That's exactly what a small pinch of sea salt does when stirred into the glass. This isn't a new idea either. Some of the earliest oral rehydration formulas developed by researchers in the mid-20th century used citrus juice combined with salt as a low-cost, effective alternative to intravenous fluids in regions without easy medical access, and that basic formula still holds up. The salt doesn't make the juice taste salty in small amounts. It actually rounds out the flavor and cuts some of the acidity. For a full glass of fresh orange juice, a small pinch, about 1/8 of a teaspoon, is enough to meaningfully improve its rehydrating power without changing the taste you're used to. If you've ever wondered why a splash of orange juice tastes noticeably better after a long, sweaty day than it does on an ordinary morning, this is likely part of the reason. Your body is recognizing exactly what it needs. 6. Aloe vera juice, the healer's hydration secret. Aloe vera has a long history as a topical remedy for burns and skin irritation, but aloe vera juice, made from the inner gel of the plant, has also been used internally across traditional medicine systems in the Middle East, Africa, and parts of Asia to support digestion and hydration. Aloe vera juice is over 99% water, and the inner gel contains trace minerals including calcium, magnesium, potassium, and zinc, along with polysaccharides that some research suggests may support gut lining health and nutrient absorption. On its own, aloe vera juice is a gentle hydrator rather than a powerhouse electrolyte source, which is exactly why it works best paired with something else. A splash of lemon juice adds potassium and vitamin C, while a small pinch of salt supplies the sodium that drives fluid absorption. This combination is especially useful for people recovering from illness or gut sensitivity, since aloe vera juice tends to be gentle and easy to tolerate, even when other foods and drinks feel unappealing. Make sure you're using pure aloe vera juice with the outer leaf latex removed, since that portion contains compounds that can cause digestive upset in larger amounts. Mix it with the juice of half a lemon and a pinch of sea salt for a soothing, mineral-supportive recovery drink. Look for aloe vera juice labeled as inner leaf or decolorized, since this indicates the outer leaf compounds have been properly removed, making it gentle enough to drink daily if you choose to. 7. Tart cherry juice, the muscle recovery favorite. Tart cherries, specifically the Montmorency variety, have become one of the most researched fruits in sports recovery science over the past 2 decades, but their use as a folk remedy for joint pain and inflammation goes back much further in Eastern European and Central Asian food traditions. Tart cherry juice contains a meaningful amount of potassium, along with a dense concentration of anthocyanins, the same class of antioxidant compounds found in berries, which give tart cherries their deep red color. These anthocyanins have been shown in research to reduce exercise-induced muscle damage and inflammation. A study published in the Journal of the International Society of Sports Nutrition found that athletes who consumed tart cherry juice around intense exercise experienced significantly less muscle soreness and faster strength recovery compared to those who didn't. Beyond the antioxidant effect, the potassium content supports the same muscle contraction and nerve function that every electrolyte on this list depends on. Look for 100% tart cherry juice or concentrate without added sugar, since many commercial cherry juice blends are diluted with cheaper apple or grape juice. A small glass, 4 to 8 ounces, taken after a hard workout or a physically demanding day, is enough to get the recovery benefit. Because tart cherry has such a strong flavor, some people prefer to dilute it with a little water or mix it into a smoothie rather than drinking it straight, which doesn't reduce its effectiveness at all. 8. Pomegranate juice, ancient fruit, modern recovery science. Pomegranates have carried symbolic and medicinal weight across Persian, Mediterranean, and South Asian cultures for thousands of years, often associated with vitality and healing in traditional texts. Modern nutritional science has caught up to that reputation. Pomegranate juice contains a solid dose of potassium, along with an exceptionally high concentration of polyphenols, particularly punicalagins, which give pomegranate its powerful antioxidant profile. These polyphenols have been studied for their ability to reduce oxidative stress and inflammation following intense physical exertion, both of which slow down recovery when left unchecked. Research published in sports medicine journals has found that pomegranate extract supplementation can reduce delayed onset muscle soreness and support faster recovery of muscle strength after strenuous activity. Beyond muscle recovery, pomegranate juice also supports healthy blood flow, since some of its compounds have been linked to modest improvements in circulation. Choose 100% pomegranate juice rather than pomegranate-flavored blends, which are often mostly apple or grape juice with minimal actual pomegranate content. A 4 to 6 ounce serving provides a concentrated dose of both potassium and polyphenols without an excessive sugar load. Pomegranate juice pairs well with sparkling water if you want a lighter, more diluted version for regular daily use, rather than reserving it strictly for post-exertion recovery. If you're starting to notice a pattern here, that real recovery drinks combine sodium, potassium, and natural sugar in the right ratios, rather than relying on artificial dyes and syrups, then do me a favor and hit that like button right now. It helps this video reach people who are genuinely looking for science-backed answers about hydration and recovery. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click subscribe and ring the bell. We cover nutrition, wellness, and evidence-based living every single week, and I'd love to have you as part of this community. Now, let's keep going. 9. Pickle juice. The cramp-stopping secret nobody expects. This is the one I mentioned at the start, and I want you to understand exactly why it works, because the mechanism surprised even sports scientists when they first studied it. Pickle juice, the brine left over from cucumber pickles, is extraordinarily high in sodium, often containing several hundred milligrams in just a small shot. Athletes and laborers in hot climates have quietly relied on salty brines for generations to fend off cramping, long before it became a topic of formal research. What makes pickle juice especially interesting is that studies have found it can stop an active muscle cramp faster than drinking plain water, and faster than the time it would take for the sodium itself to even be absorbed into the bloodstream. Researchers believe the vinegar in the brine triggers a neurological reflex in the throat and mouth that interrupts the nerve signal causing the cramp, almost like a reset switch. Beyond that immediate cramp response, the sodium content makes pickle juice genuinely useful for replenishing what's lost through heavy sweating, particularly after long periods of physical labor or exercise in the heat. The catch is that it's extremely concentrated, so this is not a drink you sip freely. A small shot, roughly 1 to 2 ounces, is enough. Look for traditionally fermented or simply brined pickles without excessive added sugar, and keep the leftover brine in the fridge specifically for this purpose. Some athletic trainers now keep small shot cups of pickle juice on the sideline for exactly this reason: a fast, low-cost intervention that works before more elaborate remedies would even have time to kick in. 10. Bone broth. The savory mineral bath. Bone broth has appeared across nearly every food culture on Earth, simmered slowly from beef, chicken, or fish bones, and used as a restorative drink after illness, injury, or exhausting physical work. What makes it relevant here is its mineral density. Depending on how it's made, bone broth can contain meaningful amounts of sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus, all leached slowly out of the bones and connective tissue during a long, slow simmer. The sodium content in particular makes bone broth one of the more complete savory electrolyte drinks available. And unlike many electrolyte beverages, it also delivers gelatin and collagen, derived amino acids that support gut lining health, which in turn supports better absorption of the very minerals you're drinking it for. Traditional preparation, simmering bones for 12 to 24 hours with a splash of apple cider vinegar to help draw minerals out, produces a broth that's noticeably richer in dissolved minerals than a quick 30-minute stock. This makes bone broth especially useful for recovery after illness, when appetite is low, but the body still needs both fluid and minerals. Sip it warm like a tea. Season it lightly with additional sea salt if you've been sweating heavily, and let it replace at least 1 glass of plain water on days when you need real recovery support. Homemade versions will always be richer in dissolved minerals than most store-bought cartons. So if you have the time to simmer a batch on a weekend and freeze portions for later, it's worth the effort. 11. Miso broth. The 5-minute mineral drink. Miso, the fermented soybean paste at the heart of Japanese cooking, has been used for centuries not just as a flavoring, but as a restorative food, often served as a simple warm broth to people recovering from illness or physical exhaustion. Miso broth is naturally salty, which means it delivers a meaningful dose of sodium in every cup, along with smaller amounts of potassium and other trace minerals from the fermented soybeans themselves. Because miso is fermented, it also contains beneficial bacteria and enzymes that support digestion, which becomes especially relevant when your gut needs to actually absorb the fluid and minerals you're consuming. Unlike bone broth, which requires hours of preparation, miso broth can be made in minutes, simply by dissolving a spoonful of miso paste into hot water. This makes it one of the most accessible electrolyte drinks on this entire list for someone who needs recovery support quickly and doesn't have hours to simmer bones or juice fruit. Choose an unpasteurized, traditionally fermented miso paste if you want to preserve the live beneficial bacteria, and dissolve it into water that's warm rather than boiling, since excessive heat can destroy some of those beneficial compounds. A cup of warm miso broth after a physically demanding day is a genuinely underrated recovery habit. It's also worth keeping a jar of miso paste in the refrigerator specifically for this purpose, since it keeps for months and turns any moment into a 2-minute recovery drink with almost no preparation at all. 12. Tomato juice. The savory electrolyte nobody talks about. Tomato juice tends to get filed under breakfast drink or Bloody Mary mixer, which means most people never think of it as a recovery drink. That's a mistake. Tomatoes are naturally rich in potassium, containing more potassium per serving than a banana in some varieties. And many prepared tomato juices already contain added sodium, which makes the combination especially effective for electrolyte replacement. This isn't a new discovery either. Tomato-based drinks have long been part of Mediterranean food culture, often consumed cold on hot days precisely because they were understood, even without the modern science, to be refreshing and restorative. Beyond potassium and sodium, tomato juice contains lycopene, the same antioxidant compound responsible for the tomato's red color, which supports the body's defense against the oxidative stress that builds up during intense physical exertion or prolonged heat exposure. Some research has found that tomato juice consumption after exercise supports better hydration status compared to plain water, likely due to this combination of natural sodium, potassium, and fluid volume together. Look for a tomato juice with no added sugar and check the sodium content on the label, since this is one drink where a moderate amount of added salt is actually working in your favor rather than against you. A cold glass over ice with a squeeze of lime is an easy way to make it feel less like a mixer and more like the recovery drink it actually is. 13. Beetroot juice. The circulation booster. This is the second drink I mentioned at the start, and it deserves the attention. Beets have been used in Eastern European and Central Asian food traditions for centuries, valued for their deep color and their reputation for building strength and vitality, especially during recovery from illness. Beetroot juice contains a solid amount of potassium and magnesium, both essential for the muscle function and nerve signaling that every electrolyte on this list supports. But what sets beetroot juice apart is its nitrate content. Beets are one of the richest dietary sources of naturally occurring nitrates, which the body converts into nitric oxide, a compound that relaxes and widens blood vessels. Research on beetroot juice, much of it conducted with endurance athletes, has consistently shown that it improves blood flow efficiency, which means more oxygen and more nutrients, including the very minerals you're drinking it for, get delivered to tired muscles more effectively during recovery. A study published in the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics found that beetroot juice supplementation improved exercise performance and reduced the oxygen cost of physical activity. Fresh beetroot juice has a strong, earthy flavor, so many people prefer to blend it with a small amount of apple or carrot juice to make it more palatable. Either way, this is a drink that's doing double duty, replenishing minerals while actively improving how efficiently your body delivers them. Some people notice their urine takes on a harmless pink or red tint after drinking beet juice, which simply means the pigment compounds are passing through your system and is nothing to be concerned about. 14. Kefir smoothie. The probiotic recovery drink. Kefir, a fermented milk drink with roots in the Caucasus Mountains, has been consumed for centuries as both a food and a folk remedy for digestive and overall health. As a recovery drink, kefir brings something most items on this list don't: a live probiotic culture alongside its mineral content. Kefir naturally contains potassium and calcium, along with a meaningful amount of protein, which supports muscle repair alongside electrolyte replacement. The fermentation process that creates kefir also produces beneficial bacteria strains that support gut health, and a healthier gut lining means better absorption of the minerals in everything else you're drinking and eating. Blending kefir with banana or a handful of berries turns it into a more complete recovery drink, since banana adds a meaningful dose of potassium and magnesium on top of what the kefir already provides, while berries contribute antioxidants that help offset the oxidative stress of hard physical activity. This combination is particularly useful after a workout, since the protein in kefir supports muscle repair at the same time the electrolytes are being replenished, something a plain electrolyte drink can't offer. Blend 1 cup of plain kefir with half a banana and a handful of frozen berries for a thick, satisfying recovery smoothie that works as well after a long day of physical labor as it does after a hard workout. If plain kefir tastes too tart on its own, the banana and berries do most of the work in balancing the flavor, so there's no need to reach for a sweetened flavored version. 15. Banana smoothie. Built around the potassium king. Bananas have earned their reputation as the go-to potassium food, and that reputation is well-deserved. A single medium banana contains roughly 420 milligrams of potassium, along with a meaningful amount of magnesium, both minerals that are heavily depleted through sweat, and both essential for proper muscle contraction. This is why bananas have shown up in the diets of laborers, athletes, and travelers across tropical growing regions for generations, long before the term electrolyte entered common vocabulary. On their own, bananas are a solid source of potassium, but blending one into a smoothie with milk, yogurt, or coconut water builds a genuinely comprehensive electrolyte drink. Milk and yogurt add sodium, calcium, and protein, while coconut water adds its own potassium and sodium content, layering multiple electrolyte sources into a single glass. The natural sugar in banana also provides the glucose needed to activate that sodium-glucose transport mechanism we've talked about throughout this video, helping your body absorb the fluid more efficiently. For a simple version, blend 1 banana with a cup of milk or coconut water and a small pinch of sea salt. It's filling enough to work as a light meal replacement after a demanding physical day, not just a drink to sip alongside one. Frozen banana works just as well as fresh and gives the smoothie a thicker, colder texture that many people find more satisfying after a hot, sweaty day outdoors. 16. Milk, the most underrated recovery drink in your refrigerator. Milk rarely gets mentioned in conversations about electrolytes and recovery, and that's a genuine oversight. Milk naturally contains potassium, calcium, sodium, and magnesium, along with high-quality protein and natural carbohydrate in the form of lactose, which makes it one of the most nutritionally complete drinks on this entire list. This isn't a new discovery either. Dairy farming cultures across Europe, Central Asia, and parts of Africa have relied on milk as a staple recovery food for physical laborers for thousands of years, long before sports science existed to explain why. Several studies comparing milk to commercial sports drinks for post-exercise recovery have found that milk performs as well or better for rehydration, largely because its combination of protein, sodium, and natural sugar slows fluid loss and supports more sustained rehydration compared to water or sugar-only sports drink. The protein in milk also directly supports muscle repair, something no isolated electrolyte drink can offer. If you're lactose intolerant, that's a legitimate reason to reach for one of the other drinks on this list. But for those who tolerate dairy well, a simple cold glass of milk after a hard workout or a physically demanding day is a genuinely science-backed recovery choice that's been sitting in your refrigerator the whole time. Whole milk and reduced fat milk both provide the same electrolyte profile, so the choice between them mostly comes down to personal preference and total calorie needs. 17. Chocolate milk, the recovery drink hiding in plain sight. This one tends to get dismissed as a treat rather than taken seriously as a functional drink. But chocolate milk has actually become one of the more studied post-exercise recovery beverages in sports nutrition research over the past 2 decades. It starts with everything regular milk already offers: potassium, calcium, sodium, and magnesium, alongside high-quality protein. What chocolate milk adds is a meaningful dose of additional carbohydrate from the added sugar in cocoa, which matters more than it might seem. After intense physical activity, your muscles are primed to rapidly replenish glycogen, their stored energy source, and that process works best with a combination of carbohydrate and protein consumed together, exactly what chocolate milk provides in a roughly optimal ratio. Multiple studies comparing chocolate milk to commercial carbohydrate electrolyte sports drinks for post-exercise recovery have found comparable or superior results for measures like rehydration, glycogen replenishment, and subsequent exercise performance. The combination of fluid, electrolytes, protein, and carbohydrate in one drink is genuinely hard to beat. Choose a version with minimal added sugar if you can find one, or make your own by stirring cocoa powder and a small amount of honey into cold milk. It's an easy, palatable recovery drink that happens to double as dessert. Kids and picky eaters who resist plain milk or savory recovery drinks will often drink chocolate milk without complaint, which makes it a practical option for families dealing with a child who spent an afternoon running around in the heat. 18. Greek yogurt drink. The thick and mineral-dense option. Drinkable Greek yogurt, sometimes labeled as a yogurt smoothie or kefir-style yogurt drink, brings a thicker, more substantial option to this list. Fermented dairy products have a long history across Mediterranean, Middle Eastern, and Balkan food cultures, where yogurt was traditionally consumed not just as food, but specifically for its restorative properties after physical exertion or illness. Greek yogurt is naturally rich in calcium and contains meaningful amounts of potassium and sodium, alongside a substantial protein content, since Greek yogurt is strained to remove much of the liquid whey, which concentrates the remaining protein and minerals. That thickness is actually part of the appeal for recovery, since the higher protein content supports muscle repair in a way that thinner electrolyte drinks simply can't match. The live bacterial cultures in yogurt also support gut health, which, as we've covered throughout this video, plays a direct role in how efficiently your body absorbs the electrolytes and nutrients you're consuming. For the best recovery benefit, choose a plain, unsweetened drinkable Greek yogurt rather than a heavily sweetened version, and consider blending in a small amount of honey and a pinch of sea salt to round out both the flavor and the sodium content. It works well as either a standalone recovery drink or a light meal replacement because it's thicker and more filling than most of the other drinks on this list. It's a particularly good option for the end of the day when you want your recovery drink to also carry you through until your next real meal. 19. Coconut water banana smoothie. Two potassium powerhouses in one glass. We've covered coconut water and banana separately earlier on this list, but combining them deserves its own entry because together they create one of the most potassium-dense drinks available from Whole Foods alone. Coconut water brings its naturally isotonic mineral profile, rich in potassium with meaningful sodium and magnesium, while banana adds its own substantial potassium and magnesium content on top of that, along with natural carbohydrate for quick energy. This combination effectively doubles up on the primary mineral lost through heavy sweating, which makes it particularly useful after prolonged exercise, extended heat exposure, or any situation involving significant fluid loss. Unlike a plain coconut water, the addition of banana also adds enough natural sugar to meaningfully activate that sodium-glucose fluid transport mechanism, improving how efficiently your body actually absorbs the liquid rather than simply passing it through. Blending the two together also improves palatability and satiety compared to drinking coconut water alone, since the banana adds body and a natural sweetness that makes the drink more enjoyable to finish completely, which matters when the goal is consuming enough total fluid volume to actually rehydrate. Blend one banana with a full cup of coconut water, and add a small pinch of sea salt if you've been sweating especially heavily for a complete, whole food recovery drink. 20. Homemade electrolyte recovery drink. The formula that ties everything together. And here we are, number 20. The drink I saved for last because it represents the complete distillation of every principle covered in this video. Water, fresh lemon or orange juice, raw honey, and sea salt. This is essentially a refined version of where we started. And that's intentional, because after walking through 19 other drinks, the core formula for effective rehydration keeps coming back to the same three elements working together. Sodium from the salt drives water absorption in the small intestine through the sodium-glucose transport channel. Glucose from the honey and fruit juice activates that same transport channel, pulling both sugar and sodium and the water that follows them into your bloodstream efficiently. And potassium from the citrus juice helps replace what's specifically lost through sweat, supporting proper muscle and nerve function during recovery. This basic formula is closely related to oral rehydration solutions used in clinical settings around the world to treat severe dehydration, proof that the fundamentals of good hydration science were never actually complicated or expensive. To make it, combine 2 cups of water, the juice of 1 lemon or orange, 1 tablespoon of raw honey, and 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. Adjust the salt slightly upward if you've been sweating heavily, or the honey upward if you need more immediate energy alongside your hydration. Keep it in the fridge and reach for it anytime plain water isn't cutting it. It's the drink to fall back on when you don't have coconuts, cherries, or bone broth on hand. And it's proof that the most reliable recovery tools were never locked behind a brand name. If you made it all the way here, you've just received a complete science-backed blueprint for recovering your body from every angle. Let me leave you with the framework. Replace sodium fast with lemon honey salt water, pickle juice, bone broth, and miso broth. Restore potassium with coconut water, watermelon juice, banana smoothies, and tomato juice. Support circulation and deeper recovery with beetroot juice, tart cherry juice, and pomegranate juice. And rebuild with protein-rich options like milk, chocolate milk, kefir smoothies, and Greek yogurt drinks. This isn't a marketing formula dreamed up to sell you a colored powder in a plastic tub. This is how hydration and recovery actually work at the level of your gut and your bloodstream. And it's available to anyone starting today using what's already in a normal kitchen. Smash that like button if this video changed the way you think about what you reach for after a hard day. Drop a comment below and tell me which drink surprised you the most. Are you team bone broth, team pickle juice, or team beetroot juice? I read every single comment, and I love hearing from you. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, click that subscribe button and hit the bell so you never miss a video. We're building a community that takes nutrition seriously, evidence-based, practical, and deeply connected to how the body actually works. Because the most powerful recovery strategy doesn't come in a plastic bottle with a lightning bolt on it, it comes from your own kitchen. And now you know exactly what to reach for.